We did 50k exotics, we did 30k exotics, now it's time to jump it right back up again to £75,000 exotic cars that look mad cool and pretty expensive, and to be honest, 75k is quite a lot of money. But compared to the packages that you're getting out of these cars, they are pretty sick. No more faffing, let's get straight into it. Let me know in the comments down below which of these 10 cars would be your personal favourite, or if I've missed any that you think are even better. Without further ado, let's get into the video. We're kicking off with a car that is nothing like any of the others on this list, but arguably makes you look the richest, the Rolls-Royce Phantom, specifically the 7th generation that ran from 2003. To help you waft along in comfort, it gets a 6.75 litre V12 engine that produces 453 brake horsepower, which you get it to 60 in 5.7 seconds, and though that's significantly slower than every other car on this list, that's not bad at all for a luxury car that weighs more than 2.5 tonnes. Adjusted for inflation, on release this car was worth more than £500,000, which is well worth being aware of in terms of maintenance, but as these are hand built to the highest quality, you should go into ownership expecting to sit alongside Rolls-Royce main dealerships in order to keep it running very well. It was the absolute pinnacle of luxury on release and could be spec'd within reason however you wanted it to be as a customer. This means if you're in the market for one, you should keep hunting until you find the ideal spec for you. 70 grand is the minimum you can find these listed for, so for £75,000 you'll be looking at a 2004 model with around 40,000 miles on it. Next up we have the surprisingly stunning and I would say pretty underrated Lexus LC500, which comes with a 5 litre V8 engine that produces 457 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.5 seconds pretty quick. I've spoken about the smaller engine LC500H before, but this one is that bit quicker and more powerful, though the rest of the formula remains pretty similar. LC stands for Luxury Coupe, which is exactly what you get with this, as that interior is a properly nice place to be, even if the car does look a lot sportier on the exterior. Just think about the car it replaced. Aesthetically, both inside and out, this is a way more enticing car than the SC430, for example, especially considering much of its design principles were taken from the stunning LFA. As if that wasn't enough, it also was a highly successful race car, taking first place in 14 of 24 total races that it took part in Super GT between 2017 and 2019. These start at around £55,000, and if you spend our 75k limit for this video, you'll find a very low mileage example. Another major benefit is that it's a Lexus, so from a reliability standpoint there isn't much to shout home about, and if there are, like the low pressure fuel pump, there were recalls made. As I get older, I like Porsches more and more, and the 981 Cayman GT4 is an absolutely stunning car for the money, with proper Porsche prowess similar to that of far more expensive GT products. It comes with a 3.8 litre flat 6 engine that makes 379 brake horsepower, the lowest on this list, but it will still do 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds and manage to get around the Nürburgring in a time of 7 minutes 42 seconds, quicker than the Pagani Zonda, Nissan GTR, and maybe even a bit more relevant, the Lotus Exige Cup 380. Of course, the idea behind this car was for it to be a track-focused beast, which is even more apparent in the Club Sport package, which gives you telemetry, a roll cage, 6-point harnesses, and hands device compatibility. Pretty sweet. I've spoken to some actual racing drivers who work for Porsche about the Cayman GT4, and despite being biased, they actually said it understeers a bit much for their liking, which I'm sure won't be as much of a problem for us mere mortals when out for a nice track day. £65,000 will get you into one of these, and for £10,000 more you'll get yourself a 2015 model with around 20,000 miles on it. Reliability has been very positive, but do be aware of the propensity to thrash these cars around a track, meaning they will have needed a loving owner to keep everything screwed up. Next up we have the Bentley Continental GTS, which was built on the 2nd generation platform, but not with that typical W12 block. Instead it's the 4 litre twin turbocharged V8 that puts out 513 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.3 seconds, matching the Cayman. That V8 engine was developed alongside Audi, and for the sake of efficiency it can deactivate half of the cylinders when they're not needed. Add on the weight reduction and better management of engine heat, along with a few other bits, and the car is around 40% more efficient than that W12. Compared to the standard GT, the car came with some more aero parts, most notably the front splitter and rear diffuser. It also got more spec options on the interior, some larger alloys, and a couple of other spec options on the exterior like tinted front and rear lights, which are very popular. But regardless of all that, it's worth noting that at its core this is a luxury Grand Tourer, so expect to drive it as such. This is the cheapest car on the list, starting at around £50,000, with £75,000 getting you a low mileage 2014 example. The problems with these are actually few and far between, between and are actually usually leak related, the worst being oil leaks and power steering leaks. It's hard to exclude one of my favourite cars ever from this list, and absolutely the car I'd have given the choice, the TVR Sagaris, with its 4-litre inline-6 engine that makes 395 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 3.7 seconds. It's a more savage and rarer version of the T350 that it's based on, hence it's also double the price second hand, and was built to be TVR's endurance racing entry, though in reality it's the road car that made any major impact. What makes it so special is that it's almost certainly the last and arguably the most pure of its kind, with the bare minimum of what you would need to support a driver and keep them safe. I'm pretty sure they would have gotten rid of the seatbelts if they'd had the option to. It is as bare bones as it gets, and then gets a bunch of aggressive axe wounds around the car to show its prowess, plus the iconic side exit exhaust at the rear, which are pretty good for passing noise limits on track days. £70,000 maybe you'll get into one of these for, and it will have around 40,000 miles on the clock for that kind of money. That Speed 6 block is known to have problems though, even if it is in its most modern guise in the Sagaris, but this is basically an investment car at this point, so what could you really expect? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A quick reminder, if you're new here, do hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new, for 2 videos every single week as we go into the new year. On to the top 5 now, and in 5th we have a car that really surprised me when I had the chance to drive one, the Ferrari California. It comes with a 4.3 litre V8 engine that makes 483 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 3.7 seconds, which isn't bad for the entry level Ferrari. People don't really think of these as being on a level of desirability with cars like the 458, and it's obvious why, but definitely don't sleep on it, as it's half the price of a 458 and by no means half the Ferrari. It handles and feels just how you want a Ferrari to, and the roof comes down to make it an even more fun experience in the summer. Honestly, the more useful car to own on a day-to-day would be this California, even if it's not exactly the Ferrari of choice for many enthusiasts. £64,000 would get you into one of these, and £75,000 would get a 2010 example with around 20,000 miles on it. It's a Ferrari, so it will have Ferrari maintenance bills. I don't think I need to say much more, even though they are known to be pretty reliable. In my opinion, the best looking Mercedes AMG GT is the GTC, but unfortunately £75,000 won't get you into one. It will however get you into the GTS, which is still a great looking car and absolutely rapid, with its 4-litre twin turbocharged V8 putting out 502 brake horsepower, which you get to 60 in 3.7 seconds. This car's predecessor is the SLS, and you can certainly see some similarities between the two cars. In S-Spec it didn't just get more power than the standard car, but also got race mode, race start, an electronic LSD, AMG adaptive suspension and a performance exhaust, plus some different spec options to make it that bit sportier over the standard car. The only thing I'd say though is that despite the race options on the S, it is still at its core a Grand Tourer, so I think the most fun you'd get out of one of these would be driving it through Europe to the south of France as opposed to taking it on a track day. These start at around £55,000 and £75,000 will get you a 2015 example with around 30,000 miles on the clock. There were a few recalls, but in reality reliability has been very solid so far, though I have seen some owners on forums complaining about Mercedes service. Taking third on this list is the Lamborghini Gallardo LP560-4, which refers to its longitudinally positioned 5.2 litre V10 engine that makes 552 brake horsepower, which you get to 60 in 3.6 seconds. What's crazy about this car is that a couple of years ago I proved that at 25 years old I could get insured on one at just over £1,000 per year, which is pretty mental considering the price and type of the car you're getting into. It is the predecessor to the Huracan in the position of Baby Lambo, and the LP560-4 came with the facelift Gen 2, meaning it looks a bit more like the Murcielago, which I really like personally compared to the Gen 1. Gen 2s are more expensive though, starting at around £72,000, making it the most expensive car on the list, and you'll be looking at a 2010 model around 40,000 miles on the clock for your £75,000. The benefit of a Gen 2 is that auto drivers get far more reliable e-gearboxes than the Gen 1, but you can of course go for a manual, though they tend to be pricier. Outside of that, expect to pay Lamborghini maintenance bills, though it is essentially an Audi underneath, meaning reliability isn't horrendous. If you can't get yourself into a V10 Plus Audi R8, no matter, because for less than £75,000 you can get into a normal example of the second generation, which still has a 5.2 litre V10 engine that makes 532 brake horsepower, which takes from 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. The engine comes out of the Huracan and in Plus spec gets an additional 70 brake horsepower, but in standard spec it is only a few tenths slower to 60, not helped by having a higher gear ratio as well. Aesthetically, the easiest way to tell the difference between the two is the permanent carbon fibre wing on the rear of the Plus, which is swapped out for a retractable spoiler on the Standard. Outside of that, the Plus also got carbon ceramic brakes as standard, but these were an option still on the non-Plus. And honestly, if you're after a supercar for under £75,000, I would happily take the slight differences and go for an R8 without feeling like I was missing out on too much with the Plus. 70 grand is the lowest you'll find these listed for, and for £75,000 you'll get a 2016 model around 20,000 miles on it. Compared to other exotics, the R8 is known to be pretty reliable, and if you check on forums you'll find plenty of owners bragging about how solid their cars are. Repairs can be expensive though if something does go wrong, so do be wary. Taking the top spot in this video is the first proper McLaren road car to hit the market since the hallowed McLaren F1, the 12C, with its typical 3.8 litre twin turbocharged V8 that produces 616 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in a ridiculous time of 3.2 seconds. Originally it was known as the MP4-12C before being shortened, and it came on a carbon fibre composite chassis, making it incredibly focused, even if it doesn't necessarily look like the most aggressive car on the exterior with its nice flowing lines. That carbon tub enables the car to be the quickest around the Nürburgring from this list, with a time of 7 minutes and 28 seconds, which is no slouch at all. It was designed by the legendary car designer Frank Stevenson, who is responsible for buttes like the Maserati MC12 and a whole host of other nice McLarens, including the P1. 66 grand is around the lowest you'll find one of these for, and for £75,000 you get a 2014 model with around 20,000 miles on the clock. The key problem with this car though, and the reason why it's so cheap, is the reliability. It's the gearbox in particular that's known to go wrong and costs around £15,000 to repair, which is 1/5 of the price you'll have paid to get into the car. Electrical problems are also known. Basically, it's a bit of a precarious one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and massive thanks as always to the page for making it possible, and as this is my last video of the year, I think, Happy New Year. There you go. What a year it's been. On to the next one, let's get it done. And as you bring in the new year, if you want to see a bunch of very fast estate cars for under 20 grand, then click up here, and subscribe as well down here.